Welcome to the MadTrio podcast. This week we have the California Pariah, Jonathan Charny, James the Fat Man Stevens, Ryan, who the fuck is that, Preston, and Rob, the old guy.
The old guy, Rob Charny. That's Rob Charny. Watch for the Rob Charny show because I don't ever get a plug on this damn show.
We're having technical issues.
We're having technical issues. I can't get my drops put in place. The guy that handles the board is a real asshole.
Well, like father, like son. And the most interesting news is looks like the world of cinema is taking a major hit during COVID. Cinema World confirms closure of all Regal cinemas in the United States. And it's because
they actually confirmed it. I just saw a couple of days ago that they were like, oh, this is like a move we're considering.
Right. And today they came out and
so it's official.
So we went to the movie theaters 4 or 5 days ago. Went to the Regal theaters, and they might as well close because there just isn't anybody there. I mean, we're sitting in the big movie theater, and there was like 4 people.
So a little over a month
on a weekend.
Good point. I think it was a Thursday, so that's not a big day anyway. But even still, I was talking to a couple of the employees there, and they said it's just, people just are not coming.
A little over a month ago, after theaters reopened to the public, every Regal cinema location in the United States is shutting its doors once again. The returns so far have been promising, as people haven't embraced a return to the theaters, and unlikely until there's more definitive solution to the coronavirus. One of the reasons I heard they're doing this is because the James Bond has been postponed, which also the Dune remake has been pushed back till next year. Warner Brothers moving to Denis Villeneuve's Dune to October 2021, so that's a full year being held back.
Well, maybe they're going to try to work on the effects a little bit more because everybody.
Well, what's kind of interesting, and I might see is it's almost starting to feel like, and pardon the analogy, I know that it's not analogous, but it feels like that war-torn Poland, kind of outbreak of World War II, and just, I don't know if anybody, you guys had ever seen that movie, To Be or Not to Be.
We did it in Real Flicks Reviews, dude.
Oh, did we? Okay.
This is what you get for never doing your fucking homework.
Dude, we did like 400 of those things.
Yeah, I remember every movie we've done. As soon as you say, oh, we did, it's like, yeah, okay, yeah, I remember doing it.
All right, move along.
Well, I'm sure it was my pick anyway. I'd seen that movie 100 times. In any case, it feels like this, crazy time where no one's really allowed to go to these places. If it was, that's a great pick. But anyway, I was going to say...
I know.
I think I'm going to start to see like this artifact where like a lot of these little art house movie theaters, the independent theaters, are probably going to be the only ones really sustaining after a while, because they're the only ones that actually have any sort of a catalog of movies to play. A lot of those independent art houses, they sort of either have a personal collection or access to old movies. Your average chain movie theater, they don't have the new movies coming out. So they can't bank off of this endless cycle of new movies. Everyone's pushing off their stuff, so they can't just mothball their theater and say, okay, we're just going to throw a chain around the door and then open when it comes back. It's unsustainable in the meantime.
So does this mean that I might be right when theaters start becoming a boutique experience and big theaters like...
Okay. No, you're not going to be right, you maniac, because you've been bringing this shit up for fucking years, and it took a plague for it to happen.
Well, here's the honest thing. There's been a number of articles.
So John's the one behind it all.
So here's the interesting thing.
He just wanted to be right about theaters closing eventually.
So
You sick bastard.
Have any of you guys ever gone to a boutique theater? I mean...
Yeah, sure. I got a few of them around here.
All right. Well, I have. I'm just trying to make sure before this... Jonathan comes back with his theory. I want to know: have you been to one? John?
Ryan just doesn't like the sticky floors. No, I haven't.
There's
those
were whole
because the only one near us
is audio.
No, boutique. The only one really is downtown Sac.
Okay, so now let's get a definition of what you call boutique.
Art house theaters.
All right, so you're talking about the old
Crest.
single screen.
The Crest Theater is the only one I'm aware of.
Well, that's a little different because I look at boutique theaters other than just your standard everyday normal fare, like the ones that serve meals during the movie and alcohol during the movie. And those
are those open?
No, I was very much thinking about the art house movie theaters because they don't have the new movies coming out every week.
Right.
They can't screen all of them, so they
we're
have
talking
to
about
get
the places
access to the old stuff.
The guy, all the theaters that do the Rocky Horror Picture Show type thing, right?
Yeah, exactly, because they have that film in the back somewhere.
Right.
So they actually have movies to play. If people don't know, movie theaters do not own the movies outright. The studios send out prints of the reels to movie theaters, and they basically make their rounds. Like everybody gets a print, but you're giving them back. Like you don't get to keep that shit.
Reels? Well, I mean, what is you talking about the 1980s? Nobody's used reels.
I mean,
in
I
years.
guess they do it digitally nowadays mostly.
Yeah, but no, I bet a number of those art house theaters, whatever you want, boutique, whatever you call
the
them,
Hateful Eight
probably have stored film.
Well, like the art house do, and when the Hateful Eight came out, I actually missed my chance because Quentin Tarantino did it in 70 millimeter, which is a very rare film, and I missed a chance to see one. I think it was in San Francisco. And they were doing actual real. They were actually buying. They bought up all the ones they could find in the 70 millimeter projectors, and were shipping them around the country with the film because nobody has them. Mm-hmm. I don't think the dinner and a movie things are going to stay around because if nobody's releasing movies,
it's going to be a problem.
Right. Unless
you're absolutely right.
Unless they do. However, if they were doing like dinner and a movie, and you could see like Ben-Hur, you could see some of these major cinematic classics, I'd do it.
They may very
Honey,
well.
I Shrunk the Kids.
They may very well go to cinematic movies that are worth seeing, and
because one of my favorite experiences, I took my wife to see the Ten Commandments when it was in our local theater for one of those, it was like a Thursday night special, see an old movie. And it was on one of like the bucket list at some point in time to see it in the big screen. So I'd love to see the original Tron in theater. So there are some movies I'd love to see in back in the big screen.
Talking about Honey, I Shrunk the Kids, you heard about Rick Moranis.
Yeah, some dude hit him.
I did.
Getting attacked just out of nowhere in New York City. Welcome to living to New York City. I'm surprised anybody even recognized him, to be honest.
What do you mean somebody hit him like somebody punched him?
Sucker punched him.
From behind.
Yep.
Yeah.
Who?
Yeah.
He's a fucking national treasure.
I know.
Why would you hit Rick Moranis?
Can you believe? And people are outraged over it. And it doesn't make New York City look very good. And he's out with his mask on his face and a hat on his head, walking in New York, and he gets sucker punched.
In all honesty, I bet the person didn't know who he was. Because realistically, he's been out of, I think the last movie I remember him doing was like Honey, I Blew Up the Kid or Honey, I Shrunk Ourselves.
May have been.
So he's been out of the cinema for at least sometime in the 2000s. So I bet the person just thought he was, waylaying some random white dude.
Maybe.
Because why would you? Because hitting somebody as beloved as Rick Moranis is not a good thing.
Yeah.
Because I've never
heard.
Well,
hitting anybody's not a good thing, but now you got a guy that's loved by so many people that grew up with those shows, that group, and he gets poor guy gets sucker punched. It makes you feel like, well, hell, if he does, anybody could. Doesn't look good for New York.
Well, nobody's ever said anything bad about Rick Moranis. Like a lot of these stars, you hear people say iffy things about, but there's a handful of celebrities who the only thing you've ever heard is the dude or this gal's a really nice person.
Yeah. Well,
and so
he seems like it.
I've never heard anything bad about him. So I'm kind of surprised that
if it was happened. Woody Allen, then I'd probably understand it.
It would have been his. It would have been his daughter. I mean, excuse me, his wife.
I'll be honest. I've wanted to punch Woody Allen for a very long, very, very long time.
Yeah,
very long time.
that was a joke just for us. We shouldn't be that. What the hell? Yeah.
I mean, I could see him getting punched. He probably has been punched a lot.
He may have been. if anybody deserves it, but because he's a big New Yorker is the only reason I brought that up too. So
I'm still surprised somebody hit him. I mean, of all the people to like randomly hit New York, you somehow hit a guy who's I would say he's a minor celebrity now.
He's basically my age, and he's almost 68 years old. This poor guy gets sucker punched. He's only 5'6". He's not a big man.
He's aged really well though.
So, oh my God, poor guy.
Oh my God.
He just popped in on a commercial for something Ryan Reynolds is promoting. I think it's like some new cheap phone service or something like that. But yeah, he popped in for like a quick advertisement kind of deal, and it was just like, oh hey everybody, look at Rick Moranis,
Yeah.
But it just kind of reminded me of him a couple of weeks back, and I'm like, oh yeah, man, there's a guy who kind of bowed out of the spotlight just of his own volition.
Well, I think he did it because his wife died and he went to take care of his kids.
Yeah, I think that's what it was. I'm pretty sure that's what it was.
Like something like amazing, like some sort of Hollywood celebrity would give up everything to take care of his kids. The first time I heard that, if that's truly, I was like, dude, I like this guy. I like him even more. So, question, when you think of Vin Diesel, what type of actor do you think he is? So I want you guys to keep that in mind.
I don't really want that.
Well,
more one-dimensional than a wall.
Well, keep that in mind while I read this. Vin Diesel is the kind of actor you hire when you want a very specific kind of performance. The Fast and the Furious star has become synonymous with a certain type of endearing meathead action hero. This is not to say he can't do something that's occasionally surprising, but for the most part, he has found his niche and is sticking to it. I don't think he has a choice in that. And a new rumor makes it sound like he might be playing one of the meatiest heads of the entire action genre. Duke Nukem.
Well, why not? It's a fine role for him.
Which is hilarious.
But didn't Duke Nukem have hair?
Yes.
Yeah. Well,
and a lot of naked chicks. Like, a lot.
They'll order him up some plugs, and by the time they gets filming, he'll have hair.
So Vin Diesel's allegedly in the running to play the video game action parody character Duke Nukem. We just got done reporting that John Cena might be in the rumor running for the same role. I'd go with Cena.
Yeah, I would absolutely go with Cena. I would watch that movie right now.
Yeah, I could see Cena in the role. I don't.
That's true.
Because I think he could, for one, he's got the perfect hair. I can see him chomping on that half a cigar the whole damn movie.
Yeah.
And saying all the same dumb lines and everything. I see Vin Diesel as more of like a broody Batman-y, and nowhere near do I want this guy ever to get near a Batman costume, but that much more of a grumpy, broody type.
I could see him being Batmite.
I would really be disappointed if he didn't do a "You Can't See Me" as Duke Nukem.
Well, considering it's a giant parody, I could see it. I was going to say, did you ever guys see like bits and pieces? What is it, Bloodshot?
Huh?
Vin Diesel did the movie Bloodshot, so I've seen bits and pieces of it. I have no idea if it's actually out, but I've seen bits and pieces of it. But it's an awful movie. So I was.
Well, did you watch the Riddick group?
See, that's what I was going to say. I remember Pitch Black.
Yeah.
And that movie was dope.
Well, here's the thing. That was written by. That was for him, by him. If there was another guy who didn't know how,
then he needs a lot of help.
Because the first Pitch Black was amazing. I really like the second one, and the third one was as close as you can get to a movie abortion as you can get. Actually, I would say, it's about on that level, the Battlefield Earth, a little bit better, even with Dave Bautista doing a really crappy job.
He was just trying to suck every penny he could out of that series.
And he mortgaged his house. He actually put up a good deal of money on his own. And I think in order to, one of the Fast and Furious movies, I think to do.
Yeah, he's the producer of the.
What was it? The last one? I think it was Tokyo Drift. I heard a rumor that in order for him. Like for him to do a little bit of a snapshot in the movie towards the end, they had to give him the rights to Pitch Black, to that whole entire character.
Okay.
I did want to say something that I thought was, and this is a total subject change. So do you guys know anything about in Europe that was the Catholic Protestant War?
The what?
Yeah, like all of Ireland at war forever.
Well, yeah.
Oh, the war. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, what it was is it was a fight between the Catholics and the Protestants, and if you were caught,
The reason there's a Northern Ireland and an Ireland.
well, like back in the day, Sherman set the Wayback Machine. So what they would do is people would actually hide Catholics in their houses and stuff. This kind of vaguely, I was reading about it a couple of days ago, and it kind of reminds me of where the Republican Democrat thing is going. Not to such an extreme, but pretty damn near close. I was wondering what you guys thought. I mean, it's kind of a loose comparison. Not as many people have died.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think you're ever going to get a bloody Sunday out of it, you know.
Yeah.
You never know. It may be coming up. Especially if you listen to the regular news media.
Yeah, well, there's a lot aside from religion that you know might launch America into some weird situation. I really doubt we're going to get to some, you know, only because I'm not I can't go that far on the thought. It's one of those things in the back of my mind. Oh, it might be like a civil war. Like, I really doubt it because that's a pretty extreme measure. And I think before we get there, everyone's going to realize, like, okay, wait, what are we doing? You know, but it wouldn't be the first time. You know, the cooler heads
always had a lot of faith in the humanity.
Yeah, I was gonna.
You know what? I've got a lot of faith in people not wanting to uproot their incredibly easy lives.
So what? You're missing one of James's famous quote that I've been butchering for 20 years. Never underestimate the power of stupid people.
Oh, God. You really can't say it right, can
I've
you?
been butchering it. I've been doing it on purpose all this year, and I'm still.
Then how do you say it properly?
I'm not telling you because I don't want to say it properly.
Yeah, sure.
So basic, you know, I think people are set upon destroying themselves. Personally, it's human nature.
I think a small portion of them are set against destroying themselves, but I think when it really comes down to it, there's not a lot of people that are, well, for one, we don't have in this country anymore these defined lines of this is the left and this is the right. They're all intermingled with each other. You might have a couple of states that can, you know, put a line in the sand and say if we see any, you know, such and such come this way. But we it's not going to be the North versus the South again. You know, it's not like everybody that thinks one way is all in one area of the country.
Are you saying the South will not rise again?
I'm saying that there's too many, you know, whatever the South thinks it is, there's too many of the other people amongst them.
I think it's going to be battle royale style. I think it's going to be a one giant melee because I know people, one particular woman who is politically as far left of me as you can get without being Pol Pot. And her and I routinely butt heads over like little things. So I'm not saying it's impossible or possible, but I don't know. I think something's going to have to happen on the party side.
I would this may sound a little funny to say, but if there was a civil war, I guess that's what you're kind of pointing at, right? We're talking about because we finally have come to somehow the country has finally come to a breaking point, and actual civil war comes out.
Who knew it'd be over pokey?
I think the leftist elite have to remember that the right, extreme right, somewhat right, even the mid right are all armed.
What was that stat?
Most of the left, uber liberals, what do they want? They want unarmed, and they don't own guns, and they don't stand a chance. My opinion. I mean, it wouldn't be good.
What was that stat that I saw a number of years ago that says the state of Wisconsin, if you compare to an army, would be the world's largest standing army because of all the firearms owned or something like that?
Well, look, even if the liberals, the extreme liberal side had the same amount of weapons, their goal is it's not just the left citizens versus the right citizens. It's one of those sides is gonna be against the government as a whole, and the extreme left, and I literally only mean the extreme left. Like, there's a lot of very reasonable liberals that are just willing to have a conversation and don't agree with certain Republican philosophy, let's say. But the extreme left would be going against the United States government in an overthrow sort of like demolish the status quo kind of thing. Which one, you've got to win that hearts and minds before you can, boot and rally and start storming the gate. So you have the United States military against you. Yeah, you might have a lot of like liberal sided people who maybe leave the military, and don't want to fight in that war.
Somebody's having an emergency.
Yeah.
But you're not going to have the South or the whatever will not have to bear arms because drones.
So here's the thing that I was told, and I've been told this by multiple members of the military, that if there's a fight, there's a very likely chance that the military is going to go the conservative side. And I've heard this from a number of people who are in the military who are like, oh yeah, we're all just going to say bye Democrats. And that may not be that's a broad brushstroke, but I've heard it from enough people that.
So there seems to be a disparity in military between the National Guard and the standing military. And you got to remember the governors control the National Guard.
Up until a point.
So, well, yeah, but still they can call them in. And so usually the National Guard guys, and I'm not discounting your service and all of that, thank you, but they're weekend warriors, basically.
They'll
right?
tell you that too.
And they admit it as well, versus the standing army and a whole bit. So there is a big division between the two. There's a thing called posse comitatus where basically the government cannot call our standing military to come in and intercede. The only thing they have is the National Guard. So
can't you pause that? Isn't there some sort of like emergency or some?
Probably. But then we're back to where you were talking about. Would the generals, would the commanding officers, all the way down the rank, would they actually obey those orders? Because remember, they have a choice to say, sorry, I believe that's an illegal order. Because we're not going to have a repeat of what the Nazis did.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, I was just taking, following orders, and I'll kill as many people of my own people as I can. So that's the whole idea behind, the military saying, look, that's an illegal order, and we're not going to do it. And there's a lot of feeling that they would not go after our own citizens. So there's a limit as to what would go on that.
I agree. Not to mention, look, all said and done, I agree with the founding principles of the country, and agree that it's a about as good a system as you can get with an imperfect people, with it still being run by
right.
people. So whatever side is in the interest of keeping that as the fundamentals and trying to move forward and trying to get it right where we got it wrong, but within the system, that's the side I'm on.
So I think the only
side where we still have a country at the end.
The only thing that I'm wondering, and I said this last week or the week before, I don't remember, everything kind of blends in, is the fact I don't think people realize how good their lives are, even in the middle of having, like, say, racism issue and anti-gay and anti-this. We're still better off than we were 100 years ago or 50 years ago. And I think the biggest issue is people don't realize that, and their lives are so cush. They're like, okay, we need to upthrow the system. And it's like, well, look at Venezuela. Look at the Middle East. You look at all these places that are having these hardcore revolutions, and nobody's life is safe. Nobody's life is comfortable. And I think we're at the point where nobody realizes that our system hangs on the balance of one thing, all our good faith that our neighbor's going to do the same thing, or in theory has the, we're Americans, we're going to do its best. That's why traffic laws work, because we all decide to follow the rules. We voluntarily follow the rules. So I'm hoping that everybody's going to realize, hey, if we fuck up too bad, something's going to take, there's going to be a power vacuum, and it may be Johnny Law, it may be the next big drug lord. And I don't think anybody realizes that. And that's my biggest concern.
That's the thing is that power vacuum might suck in like any one of our enemy countries who's capitalizing on an opportunity. And I'm not like the crazy, like, oh my God, we got to prepare for being invaded by China now. Like, but it's just one of those things that people aren't thinking about when they're like calling for a revolution,
No, this is something I did say. I'm pretty sure it was last week. How things take time. Changing society to change society, you have to change it slowly. Like if my example was the acceptance of homosexuals in society. Like it was 10-year change, which is pretty fast in society. And usually anything faster than like say 10 or 20 years or 30 years generally causes big problems. I think that's one of the reasons why the 60s is such a great example of you had a big change really fast. It needed to happen. But if you take a look what happened during Freedom Summer and the Freedom Riders, some of these people lost their lives for it. And I think that's something people don't realize is society doesn't change overnight. And when you change a society overnight, you get a lot of feedback. You get a lot of people going, no. And that's one of the reasons why you hear all these people, we need to do this now. It's like, hey, hold on. It may suck, but it's going to be better for everybody, especially your side. If you go a little slower, it's not fair at all.
I wonder if
fair.
I wonder if
well, that's why I like the system. Again, not one would call a perfect system because how could it be? But it's like kind of the best we've got to work with. It's kind of try and test it. If anything, we have to get better at fucking up the system.
Hey Ryan, are you there? You cut out, man. Hello?
Oh, I'm here.
Okay, you cut out.
Saying if anything, we got to get better at not fucking up the system. You know what I mean? Not change the system.
I wonder if so we were truly unprepared, I believe, for COVID-19.
Yeah.
I wonder if it had been even a stronger strain or virulent strain. I wonder what would have happened socially to the whole country, because everybody's still whining and sniveling about, we still have the deniers and the doubters and all that going on there. And now we have Trump who caught it. And so that, there's some people that maybe they might change their opinions about things. But I wonder, I worry about what would have happened had it been even a stronger strain.
Well, do you think it would have been, because my thought, it would have been like, it'd either be like 9/11 when you had this like Bill and Ted's-esque thing where it was universal harmony for about a hiccup.
Yeah, you know what was, though? The feeling of 9/11 was for the first time that I can remember, and I'm going back a ways more than you guys, that it really felt like the country came together it was a short period of time, and it is a hiccup in history, but there was a feeling of everybody kind of on the same page for once.
Well, I remember being in church at the time, and all of a sudden I never saw that many people in that small church ever. So I totally see it. The thing where I think this is different is humanity as a whole can beat any challenge when we can gather. I still believe what my old pastor Bill Search once said is we are born with a community-sized whole. I think the problem with any virus and COVID is our strength is the one thing we can't use. We as a people need other people. And I think that's the issue, is we cannot rally easily unless you're a hardcore protester, apparently.
The other problem also is that there's such a discrepancy in, I don't want to necessarily say income, but in status and all that, between those of us that could hunker down and stay within our home and do what we want and still make a living and still pay the bills and still put food on the table versus those that, oh my God, I mean, all the gig workers, all the restaurant workers, all the movie theater people, all these people, just nothing. I mean, and how are they surviving, right? And we can't even get our own Congress in the next bill, the next stimulus checks to get some money out to these folks. And, you know, you got to feel for them. I mean, I sure do. I feel really bad. And it's like, so you have this disparity between those of us that were able to hunker down and not have an effect, and those of us that were, I got to work, I've got to do something, I don't have any money, I can't stay at home.
So I have a question, and I don't know if this is going to fit our statement of what you're talking about. There's an episode of the 1960s version of Dragnet, and this lady's kid's in trouble, and her comment was, nobody knows everybody. The first question you ask when living in Los Angeles is, where are you from? Basically, it was a literary way of saying there's no community. Nobody, their neighbors don't know each other. Do you think that's part of the problem? Like, you know, like back in the day, if your neighbor needed bread, you'd give them bread.
Well, so even in the period of time I grew up to a degree, the policy was good fences make good neighbors. You know, really, I mean, living in an apartment building for the most part, especially, you know, if it was an apartment building bigger than 4 units, you know, you didn't really know the guy above you or the person below you or the people. You really didn't know.
Unless the guy was a trombone player, right? In the middle of the night.
You joined in. But that, but no, I mean, that was my experience. And the fact was that I didn't really want to know him, right?
Yeah, no, I'm right there with you. Look, I live in like a little 4-banger apartment kind of deal. It's not like a big complex or anything. It's just 4 apartments.
Right.
I'm friendly with my neighbors, but I am not friends with my neighbors, and I don't want to be.
Right.
You know, it's very much the good fences make good neighbors. Hey, knock on my door if you need a hand moving something up the stairs. You need to borrow a cup of sugar, I'm your guy. You know, those kinds of simple things. But I don't want to have any expectations of my neighbors, and I don't want them to have any of me.
Yeah.
You know, I want to be able to go home to my place and kick back and worry about my shit, not what my neighbors are doing. You know, let them handle their own goddamn life.
Yeah, you don't want them, they don't want you, you know, I don't want you in my business, buddy. I mean, you know, mind your own business and stay out of mine.
Right. And you know, honestly, going back to what were you saying, like if it was worse, I think that if it was worse, we would have done a lot better. I think we would have taken it a lot more seriously. There would have been a lot less people bucking the system. It would have given us that common enemy, you know? And
maybe
I think, you know, like, and I don't even necessarily mean like if Trump didn't downplay it, because obviously the admitted, oh, I was trying to make it sound less than it was, obviously did some fucking damage, even in the way that they handled it, and handled like sort of this slow half-assed rollout that they were doing. If it was actually worse though, like it actually was this crazy thing, this Ebola type thing that just really scared the shit out of people.
Well, it still has a really good chance of being like the 1918 pandemic, where the summertime was groovy, the wintertime was killer. So don't count your count your chickens before it hatches. It still has a chance to come back and be brutal.
Well, and that's the thing, is that because of the half-assed rollout that everybody did, couple of states before others, but then not really. It was like the, hey, safer at home. And look, and I'm right there on the side of people where you can't have the government all of a sudden just flippantly taking away your freedoms. But if that's what I'm saying, if it was worse, if it was something to be concerned about for everybody, like if you catch this, you will die, we would have figured this shit out months ago, because it would have been serious enough.
I think you're overestimating people, to be honest.
Oh no, I don't think so. I think they did not enough people had the overwhelming sense of self-preservation. If everybody all of a sudden had that self-preservation, we would have figured out our own shit. The majority of us would have done it, and we would have been a lot more sympathetic to the folks who weren't able to kind of figure it out and needed a little bit of help, and, you know, those sorts of things like, oh, hey man, if this shit was really deadly and masks stopped it, and I saw somebody without one, I would like want to take them out of the storm and be like, buddy, let's get you a mask right now, man. I can't, you know, like I can't just see you as a citizen dying.
You know, that brings up another point, and because a pandemic, either at this level or greater, has been predicted for a very long time.
Yeah.
And yet we were once again caught flat-footed with not having stocks of protection equipment, N95s, right, and regular masks and gloves and gowns.
Well, and what, correct me if I'm wrong, wasn't there with a couple of previous administrations actually like these plans set up or being set up, and then it was just kind of dissolved, like, okay, we don't need to spend money on this bullshit.
Yeah, probably. You may be right. We would have to look at it, but it would not surprise me.
It's the long-term planning versus short-term expedience, which at least in modern times has been the history, at least of California, where long-term planning goes out the window when there's a short-term issue.
The only thing, that may be. So if we were to look at getting prepared for nuclear attacks, like anybody could survive that, right? But I mean, the government.
Get in their fridge.
The government was all in for everything. I mean, there were safety shelters everywhere. There were signs everywhere. Every student in school was being taught to cut,
duck and cover.
Yeah,
right. Like that was going to do any good, and all this stuff that was completely ludicrous. But yet the whole country was in, and lucky enough that never happened. But it seems
look. I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it just seems like so different for something that we knew was going to happen. The scientists are saying it's going to happen. We're going to have a pandemic. It's going to happen. And we just, okay, fine. Well, we'll wait till it happens, right? And
I thought of a good analogy for I think people would be better if this shit was a lot worse. If you're anybody who ever lived in like a really fucked up snowy area, I mean, that just drops feet of snow overnight,
Montana
kind of place. Yeah, if you ever lived in Montana, Wisconsin, North Dakota, I mean, any just frigid fucking place. If you see a light snow on the ground and you're in a Walmart parking lot and there's that one asshole who just can't seem to figure out how to stop spinning his tires, and he's bouncing off a couple of cars, most people are going to stand there and laugh at that guy. Look at this dick. He can't drive his car. You get to any place where there's like, hey, it was 80 degrees yesterday. Now it's minus 20 and there's 2 feet of snow. And there's a woman trapped in this embankment. Her car's buried in snow. Somebody will stop and dig that lady out, even at the risk of their own safety, because you can't in good conscience drive by that shit. You see somebody broke down, you know that if you leave them there, they might freeze to death. And I think most people have that good enough conscience. Hey, we're going to stand back when it's funny. Oh, you got the sniffles, you little bitch, because you couldn't wear a mask. Ha ha. You know what I mean? But if it's like, oh, fuck, you couldn't get a mask, and therefore you and your family died. I couldn't walk by somebody without a mask if I knew that was a possibility.
Now, I'm going to bring a little bit of politics into this, and I just mean a little bit. Do you think...
I'll bring more.
Do we have a creaky door sound? I want a creaky door sound.
The closest I have is this. So here's the honest question. Do you think people would be able to get past their political position and actually help their neighbor? And I see that makes me...
because it humanizes people. You know what I mean? Like, life and death is the most humanizing thing.
I truly hope, and I honestly mean this, I really hope that's true.
So let's look at a small microcosm of this possibility. Let's say, or go back and look at the last major earthquake that happened in LA, where, the freeways were shut down, apartment buildings were flattened. The whole thing was just, all the infrastructure was, pretty much come to a stop. And I think we saw neighbors helping neighbors there more than we would have had at any other time. I mean, if people were trapped in cars, there was 15 people trying to get that person out of the car.
Right.
The same thing that happened up in San Francisco area when the Bay Bridge collapsed and part of it collapsed and all these cars were piled up on top of each other, and everybody was out there trying to help people get out of cars and help them out. And it didn't matter what color you were, it didn't matter what race you were, it didn't matter what your politics were.
Yeah,
everybody
there was something more important to think about at that time.
So that's
the problem when you boil somebody down, an actual human being, to what they believe in. You're not you as a human being, Rob. or John or James. You're what you believe, and I don't like what you believe, therefore I don't like you.
Right.
But something comes around and it reminds you like, oh no, like this is a person standing in front of me that I can do something to help. I've got to do it. It doesn't even cross your mind what they're political or religious or what have you.
You could care less. Right. You just jump in and you do what you can. And so that's the human side of us. I mean, the good human side, I guess I should say.
I truly hope that's still a thing, and we haven't gone so far to the side of, you're a political position first and a person second, because that's the one thing that's made me incredibly heartbroken about modern America is how polarized you are. Because instead of being, oh, you're a human, oh no, you're a Democrat, you're this. It's like, it's really disheartening.
Well, it's difference between if you know the person, you don't know the person. Let me tell you an experience that happened to me while I was going to college. I decided it was a great idea. I moved into this new apartment complex. I think it was 30 units. And the owner of the property gave me a deal. He says, tell you what, you be the on-site manager for this complex, and I'll give you rent at like a quarter or whatever it was. I was a starving college student. It was like, dude, man, I'm going to do it right now. I'll sign up for this gig. I can do it.
Yeah, man.
And then the reality of the job hit where, oh, by the way, you've got to collect rents from unit 4, 5, 15, 30, 28, and they're all behind, and you have to get that rent now. Right. And so here you are, right? This 19, 20-year-old college student managing this apartment building, knocking on doors, asking for money. And I remember one of the big eye openers was, trust me, anybody that's had this job will tell you that you've lost all faith in humanity because people are just terrible. You
had to be a margin manager for an apartment building. I had to work at Walmart.
I mean, how do you? I mean, I knock on the door and here's this poor lady with 3 kids and. She's trying to hold a single parent, trying to hold it all together. She can barely feed the kids, and I'm sitting there saying, "Well, you got to pay the rent, or you got to, move." And it's like, I didn't last very long at the job because it just finally got to me. I mean, it was, and that knocking on doors scared the hell out of me anyway, because you never knew who was going to answer.
That's probably why they stereotypically always have like the old person who doesn't like anybody. There was always some sort of grouch who just doesn't give a shit. That's
what you become. I wasn't going to become that person, but that's unfortunately what you have to become. You have to care less. Listen, I've heard this whine and sniveling excuse all along. You've got 15 days to come up with it or you're out. And it's like, well,
Yeah, I wonder how many like probation officers or parole officers got into it thinking like, man, I'm going to make a difference in these people's lives and become just the most jaded fucking person that can possibly exist after like 6 months.
I think quite a few actually.
Yeah,
it's
not uncommon.
Parole, probation,
I would love to meet love to meet the wild-eyed, idealistic 20-year-old.
I have a story
out of college.
I actually have a story regarding that. I was always, because I grew up watching Adam 12 and Dragnet, all these old school cop shows, always vaguely wanted to be a cop because I like helping people, and that figured out, it's like, oh, that seems like a good career. I get to help people. Had a family friend who was a sheriff's officer take me aside one day, and he said, I can ask you a question. Are you really interested in helping, being a cop? It's like, it sounds fun. It's like, so let me give you some advice. How many people do you actually think I see that need help? I said, well, most of them. None of them. He said, all the people I see, they don't need my help. He said, they're all arrestees, or trustees of modern chemistry. They're all the dregs of society that I'm helping society. And I'm really putting it nicely in the way he told me it. And he said, being a cop isn't about helping people. It's about enforcing laws, removing the people who have broken laws. And he said, you do help people from time to time, but that's not what the job entails. And
Yeah, I would imagine like being able to help people, like help, not the, oh, I'm helping this person by getting them away from the place where they can do crime or harm or drugs or whatever.
And if there was
like actually helping people.
And if there's ever a guy that was a perfect law enforcement officer, it was this particular gentleman. I mean, if you met him, you'd be like,
it's only because he loved to fuck with people.
Pretty much.
All right, so that was his thing in life. If I could mess with this person, I'm going to mess with him.
But he legitimately took me aside and said, "Look, I cannot help people. I'm arresting people. They, and that's when I decided it wouldn't do me any good. I'd turn into the guy that, Rob was talking about. I'd be a jaded asshole. It's one of the reasons I had to quit some of the retail jobs I've had is because people turn you into that. Is because they realize, I learned in retail fairly early on, there's a saying that if you work retail long enough, those who bitch the most get the most. And it's 100% true. Any manager will break any rule the store has just to get the fucker to leave.
Yeah, because you've heard it so many times, you don't want to hear it anymore and just get out of my face.
And the guy will come back the next day and the next day or the next week and the next month and they get away with it. So,
well, it takes special personalities to do certain things, and law enforcement is one of them.
Oh, 100%. I just wish you could be wide-eyed and bushy-tailed and actually make a difference instead of realizing, well, fuck, my only job is arresting people who don't want to be arrested.
But because here's the thing is that like, okay, for example, I got my car stolen a long time ago, and I called the cops to make a report. They sent like the junior officer and whatnot. So you don't even get those calls as far as like I want to help this person, would do whatever. The normal regular people are the ones who never have interactions with the cops, and we're also the ones that are grateful. Yes, I'm putting myself in the normal category. Shut up. But we're also the ones who are happy that they're out there, but don't necessarily have the interactions to express our gratitude all the time. So they have a disproportionate amount of people who don't want to see them because that's what they're called for.
It's like the TV show Cops. The only person the cops ever see is a guy with his pants down and a wife beater. I mean, and that's, and it's usually some methed out white dude in Arkansas somewhere. So I totally understand. And you're 100% right.
I swear to you, man, like the last few years, I've actually had fantasies. The weirdest fucking thing in my adult life, aside from starting to like people's front yards. I've become obsessed with like really nice grass. Don't get me started.
Don't live where I live.
Yeah, I know. But I've had fantasies about getting pulled over by the cops just so I can be nice to them. Just so I can be like a better part of their day.
So the last time I was pulled over, I actually did what they pulled me over for. I was going to lie, and the cop said, "Son, do you know why I pulled you over?" And I said, "Obviously I did it, officer. You pulled me over." And he looked at me going, I just handed me the ticket.
All right, I'll give a story. I got a story for you.
His story's probably better than mine.
Last
He's
time
older.
I got a speeding ticket, but you have to go back to like 1981. 1980. Been a long time, right? I was commuting a long distance on the 405 every day, back and forth. And hey, if you live down in Southern California, you know the fact that and back in 1980, the speed limit was 55 miles an hour, right?
Yeah, for those of you not local to Los Angeles County, the 405 runs basically up into the rich hills of like Beverly Hills area, straight down the coastline into like LAX and the hood.
Right.
But it is notoriously the worst fucking freeway in Los Angeles County.
Thank you for the traffic report, Commander Bill.
It's a terrible, but
really, it is objectively the worst freeway in LA.
You know what? And I'm sure in
worse.
the 38 years, it's much worse now. So I have no doubt about that. But it was pretty bad at that time also. And also, a 55 miles an hour speed limit. Nobody ever, who's going to go 55, right? So, if you're there at that right time in that pocket, so you're in a pocket of cars all going about, 65, 70 miles an hour. And I'm in this pocket and I'm, ready. I got to get to work, and I'm, the whole thing that you have to do, get yourself in the mindset to get in that car, to drive on that freeway, to get to work,
drinking his coffee, smoking his cigarette,
whatever. Right. And so I'm trucking along in this thing, and I'm watching behind me, and I see this CHP black and white, zigging and zagging and zipping, and some people are putting in their lights, some are still going, and he must have passed 15 cars, maybe 20 cars, and he comes up behind me, turns on the lights. All right, I pull over, and he comes up to me. And and he said, it was we didn't even have to exchange anything verbally, because at that point, all right, I knew I was doing wrong. I handed him my license and registration, and I don't think we said 2 words. He walked back, wrote the ticket, came back, gave me the ticket, sign here. I signed it, and I said, just out of curiosity, you passed about 20 other cars going the same speed limit as I was going. Why me? Because I wanted to know if I had a big right. I wanted to know if I had a big sticker in the back of my car that he didn't like. Was it the make of vehicle? Right. What was it? Right? And you know what he turned around and said to me? He said, "Because it's your fucking turn."
You know what? To me,
walked off.
That is an acceptable answer at that moment. Like, hey, you know what?
I mean, what do you say?
Right.
I mean, it was like, okay.
So it wasn't the bad cops, no donut sticker?
Yeah, no, it had nothing to do with that, right? It was just, he was 100% honest. I mean, that's about as truthful as you can get.
Yeah, I actually got a half a smile out of a cop not that long ago. I drive around for work in the middle of the night every now and again, so I'll be pulling out of some warehouse, and I'm just the only guy on the road. So the cop, maybe even bored, maybe even just like, hey, what are you doing over here? Are you casing the neighborhood? Gotta take a look.
Gotta take a look.
I got a good smile. I always do the same thing. I'll roll down all my windows if I have any that I can roll down. I'll turn on all the interior lights and keep my hands on the wheel. So from like 15 feet away from the bumper, you can pretty much see, okay, this guy ain't a threat. I can walk up here at least a little bit more calm than I would not know.
Yeah. Did the cop ever give the sniff test, though?
No, you're not.
Oh, that's definitely
hiding stuff. All the obvious jinking and stuff that's going on inside the car.
Sir, do you have any dead bodies in your car? Right. Only if you knew.
Yeah, I try to have like my license and my registration in
all
my
ready to
left
go.
hand. So if the guy walks up and he's like, take my stuff, and he's like, why I stopped you? And I was like, no, but I trust your judgment. And he just kind of gave a good smile. He's like, wow, that's brave, but okay.
yeah, good.
And he's like, oh no, it's just 3:00 in the morning. You're pulling out of here just to
check
just wanted to make sure. I'm like, oh, you know what, man? I told him what I did and what I was there for. He's like, all right, get the fuck out of it.
Just once, I want a cop to hear a story to ask cops if joking, do you have any bodies in the car, and you'll just be like, well, technically.
Well, so the one that I probably tell most often because it was the weirdest and nuttiest. We go to pick up this guy. I've worked for a mortuary. Anybody that doesn't know, that shall remain nameless because the shit I'm about to talk about this dead guy.
No names are in this.
We
beep it out.
We go to pick up what they call in the biz a decomp. Which is short for decomposed body.
Somebody's got to watch CSI out there. Come on, you know the terms.
I'm sure it's a ubiquitous term nowadays.
It kind of stinks.
So this guy, unlike
it's like San Francisco in the summer.
I've been doing this for quite a while. I've got a pretty good gauge, a measuring stick that most people don't have.
You mean?
I have the most non-existent gag. I mean, look, it's still going to hit me. I still notice. However, I can just keep it together better than most people. It still sucks as bad as for me as it would for you if you were standing there, but you might lose it a little quicker than me. This guy, though, I walk in and he was covered in a sheet, and I pulled the sheet off, and that smell wafted up at me, and I made a beeline for the back door. First time I'd ever done that. And actually, the only time since that I've ever really actually had to say, if I don't go outside right now, I'm going to yak on this guy. Because here's the thing is a lot of the times you're doing this in front of like the guy's family.
Right.
So you can't have this like, oh, that's the most disgusting thing I've ever seen look on your face. You got to kind of be like, oh, you know what? Listen, hun, these things happen. It's okay. You don't want the family to be embarrassed about, the state of their their person if they're around. So you get used to kind of just keeping those sorts of thoughts and facial expressions to yourself, even though in your mind you're just like, oh my God.
Wait, did you just say listen, hun? Well, what are you, a 50-year-old female smoker?
Oh no, I turned like 30 and realized I can call people hun in certain contexts. And I abuse that privilege.
It's a good thing you're wearing, what do they call those tight jeans?
As long as you're not talking to a coworker.
Here's the thing is, no. Yeah. Here's
right?
the thing. I don't want to be the stereotypical Addams Family mortician guy that shows up in a jet black suit and creeps everybody out. I kind of lean the other direction and just be like, hey, look, we're all kind of regular people.
Yeah, he's reality is he shows up in like the Ronald McDonald wig. He got the shoes. I mean,
he's a half-game Michael C. Hall character.
Yeah, I'm not quite Patch Adams of the funeral business, you know what I mean? But I would try to do that before I tried to do like the super somber, almost more sad than the family kind of thing, you know? Yeah. Those people weird me out when the family is like, oh, hey, listen, mom was 95, it's all good. And the guy's like, I'm so sorry. You're like, all right, man, dial it back, bro. We're good.
This was so unexpected, sir.
Yeah, like I can't imagine how devastated you are. You're like, we saw this coming, dude. Relax. Anyway, we pick up this dude. It takes me like another 4 or 5 times in and out of this guy's house, and he was a big fella. He had to have been about I don't know, knocking on 300's door for sure. But here's the thing: is that's not that big, especially when it's me and another guy. So it was mostly about the state of him, where and at the time, actually, I was wearing like a suit. And doing that particular job in a suit, you know, your average little old lady at her home, not a big deal, nothing to worry about. But then this guy, on the other hand, you're like, okay, I want shoe covers. I want a full gown, hazmat suit, but you don't have any of that. You're just like, okay, I'm going to try to keep my feet back so as to not ruin my shoes and not let anything touch me above the wrist.
So you're in one of like the stereotypical like 3-piece suit.
I don't think I was rocking a vest at the time, but, you know, definitely shirt and tie and a coat and slacks and shoes, you know.
Very respectable.
I always went with restaurant style shoes, though, because that waffle bottom, you need that traction. You can't.
Crocs. Yeah. Somehow I just don't see.
You can't go with dress shoes.
Or hard, yeah.
Dress shoes, you're going to eat shit. And if you eat shit in what I was staring at this day, you're just going to kill yourself.
Oh,
you would kill yourself before you got to the shower.
Your face first in a rather pungent situation.
Yeah. So anyway, to make a long story short,
too late.
We finally get this guy. Finally get this guy in the van, and we were driving a big Astro van, like an old sort of late '90s piece of shit, beat up Astro van.
Free candy
which
van.
Most people would either lovingly refer to as the candy van, the rape van, the murder van. It just looked like that serial killer van. So it was probably mid-October, I want to say, or at least it was sometime during the winter months, freezing ass cold, middle of the night. It was so bad smelling in the van. And actually, I made the mistake of unloading this can of Axe that I had right there, because I'm a smoker, and I usually give myself like a little quick blast of not tobacco smell before running into somebody's house.
The dubious choice was Axe body spray.
Well, it was just the quick, like, hey, I just need something to not smell like Marlboro Reds right now.
I've literally had somebody tell me that body odor, like a decomp, would be better than Axe body spray.
Well, so here's the thing: is when I unloaded this Axe in the back there, it mixed with it and became this third thing. It was neither Axe nor Dead Guy.
Level 5 biohazard.
It was fucking weaponized, dude. I'm not kidding. So me and my buddy, at 3:00 in the morning, driving down an empty freeway in a rape van with our heads sticking out of either side like Ace Ventura with a smashed windshield. It was just the most asked to get pulled over fucking scene. If you pulled up behind this, you're like, there's no way I can't stop this guy.
At least one another story.
for suspicion all day long with this. What is going on here? So we get pulled. The whole van lights up red and blue, and I'm like, the fuck is that? And I'm like, oh shit, we're getting pulled over. And I just looked at my buddy. I'm like, dude, this is gonna be good. I couldn't roll down the windows in this old Astro van. I only had the driver and the passenger. And but I kicked the lights on, and they're all blasted tinted windows. You can't see shit even with the lights on. This guy, anybody who's ever been pulled over knows how they'll kind of pull up behind you, but a little bit staggered off to the left, so as to put the headlight right in your mirror. You know what I mean? It's to kind of line up with a little bit of a tactical advantage.
And or the spotlight that they put into your mirror.
Yeah, the floodlight
right.
and all of that. But and then they'll walk up sort of parallel, a couple of feet off to the side of your car, and this guy gets up to about the bumper, and I'm watching him, sort of his dark shadow in my side view mirror. And I'm waiting I figured he was going to get up to the window and be like, what the fuck, man?
Everybody out.
But he basically stopped at the bumper. I'm watching him walk up, and he freezes. And there's nobody else on the highway at the time. We're on the side of the freeway, but it was empty. He stops at the bumper, and he kind of cocks his head to the side like a curious dog trying to figure something out. And he sidestepped left, sort of half pulled his gun out of the, or at least unsnapped his holster.
Okay, he knows what decomp smells like, so he knows you got a body in there.
And he throws like the knife hand out at me, and he started swinging out wide, starts to kind of cut the pie a little bit, and just starts yelling, hands on the dash.
Oh, geez.
And I'm like, fuck, man. And I throw my hands as far up onto the dash as I can. And this dude kind of walks over, sort of like half gun on his hip, but he's sort of like leaning off in to try to get a peek on me. And he gets a little closer. He's like, what the fuck is that, man? What is going on here? And I just started blurting out. I'm like, sir, we're with mortuary removal personnel. We just came from a residence where there was a decomp. There was officers standing by. You might have even heard the call on the radio. And you see the guy kind of freeze, and he's looking side to side, and he just kind of goes, oh, Jesus, man. And he kind of tucks his gun back down. And he's like, man, oh, my God, dude, I just assumed you were some serial killer out here. I didn't know what the fuck was going on. I just fucking smelled death. Please go. Just go. And I just gave this dude the quickest thumbs up, started this junky piece of shit, and just was like, thanks, man, later. But the look on this dude's face was like, I think I just came across like some movie shit now. I don't know what's going on.
Helter Skelter, man.
For real, yeah. I've got Dahmer. I like, he didn't know whether to call back up. I mean, the old saying, didn't know whether to shit or go blind.
Right.
This guy was just trying to figure it out.
And that was the story of how Ryan stunk up the 405.
And just imagine him going back to the station that night telling the story. Man, you won't believe what this van I walked up on. My God.
Yeah, no kidding.
Yeah. Oh, jeez.
That's
story.
That's the best law enforcement story I've heard in a long time.
I did get pulled over twice by the same cops. Real quick, we get pulled over. I can't remember what it was for, but they realized we were transporting a dead guy, and they're like, "Dad, don't worry about it. Just get the fuck out of here. Go to the mortuary." 2.5 minutes down the road, I get lit up again. I'm like, "What the hell is going on here?" The guy comes up and he's like, "Hey, listen, I'm with a rookie. He's never seen a dead body before. Do you mind?"
Oh no,
that's awesome.
I'm like, "I don't mind it. I'll bring this dude on over." We just opened up the side of the van and whatnot. We're just like, "Oh, you've never seen this before?" And you see the guy all like, 22 years old and nervous, and
law enforcement.
It's like, "Yeah,
hazing.
man, look, there's a dead guy."
Okay, what a story. That's a good one.
Wow.
Okay. Well,
none of my stories even remotely.
Those are pretty good. Yeah, I don't. Yeah.
I got those for days. Most people don't want to hear that shit.
That's good.
Well,
that's pretty funny.
Considering at least 3 out of 4 of us have a considerably dark sense of humor, I mean, you need to give up the stories more often.
Yeah, that's good.
Oh yeah, remind me. I had to tell you how we got a 500-pound dude off a boat.
All right, that'll be for next week's show.
That reminds me, that's like one of those stories that said, and then we had tequila.
Yeah.
So do you ever have any pet peeves? Just pet peeves. I got a new pet peeve.
People who don't use their blinker. Sorry, go ahead.
Okay, so there you go. So you got a pet peeve. I've got one that's less visceral, more related to. Okay, I got Amazon Prime. So I got Amazon Prime Video, and it's been hard to find good stuff to really watch. I think I don't know. I've been watching a lot of older sci-fi. Firefly. I'm watching it all Firefly again.
Nice.
But So what bothers me is that the Amazon Prime Video is leading you into this thing going, new episodes coming, and I see The Expanse, and I love The Expanse. It's a good series. I don't know if you guys watched it or not, but good sci-fi show. New series, new episodes. I'm going, shit, new episodes. You got to be kidding me. There's going to be new episodes of The Expanse. Only to find out that it's new to Amazon Prime. It's not new episodes, right? And that fucking pisses me off.
What's technically it's not a lie.
Yeah. I mean, it's new to Amazon. Oh, great. So now you can't trust anything that says new episodes coming or new seasons to Hulu, new seasons to, Epic, new season to whatever it may be. And it's just like, you just can't believe stuff anymore. So I've got a good pet peeve.
So if anybody doesn't know, the old guy is my dad. And the reason why I think this is funny is the family motto is quite literally question everything. And so him saying that, it just makes me laugh because I remember growing up pissing teachers off. It's like, well, my dad says question everything.
Yep. No,
so I'm sorry. I find it rather amusing.
It just really pissed me off today because I was having one of those days. I was just, and I just wanted to chill out and watch some, whatever. And it turned out to be okay because I just watched more episodes of Firefly. And
there's combat.
It is a terrific show.
Yeah, good show.
You know what? Actually, I don't know if you guys have any of you guys have HBO, but I've been really enjoying Lovecraft Country.
What? Say that again?
Lovecraft something.
Lovecraft Country.
Oh, Country.
Yeah, I've heard of it. I haven't seen it yet.
It is wonderful so far. It's like sort of co-produced by Jordan Peele, of Key and Peele, and did Get Out and I can't remember the other one, Us, I think, something like that. Any case, it's obviously based on H.P. Lovecraft sort of type of horror sci-fi.
Right.
But with the most it takes place in sort of the early 50s. And has a lot to do with race relations of the early 50s in black neighborhoods and things like that. But if you guys get a chance, I would recommend that one.
So we're pretty much over. So I'm going to leave you this with probably the randomest headline I have run into today. The best sports bras use non-Newtonian fluid. And with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, for the California Pariah, for the Fat Man, for Who the Fuck Is This, Preston, and the Old Guy, as always, thank you for listening.
Goodbye.
Bye.